I just saw Chang Shi in the Legend of the Ten Rings, or should I say Legend of the Ten Bracelets. So, gonna be filled with spoilers, but, sucks for you, because if you haven't seen it, and you haven't had it spoiled for you on Twitter, then that's your fault. But, hey, you know what? You can always click off, because no one's seeing this anyway. It's my first video. Anyway, movie starts off. We get some lore about Chang Shi's dad using the rings to be a conqueror. And then he meets his Chang Shi's mom, who is a member of the Ta Lo, which is an ancient but powerful society. And she's the only person who ever beat him. And after that, they share some looks during their fight. And after that, of course, then turns out that this has been her describing to young Chang Shi, or Chang Shi, I believe, how they first met. So they decide to give up their powers and be together, raise a family. But then you cut to the present, and Chang Shi is a valet with his best friend, played by Aquafina. And, they're kind of like, it's kind of pointed out that they're immature for their age. And there's some jokes that work. But the plot really starts going when they are attacked on a bus, and there's a really cool fight scene. He shows off all the kung fu he knows. And then, of course, we see the postcard with a dragon drawn on it that he says means they need to go to China because they're going to go after his sister. And while they're on the plane, we get some exposition as to how he was trained to be a master assassin since he was a child after his mom died. And it's even later that we learn his dad was manipulating him into even accepting the training, using the phrase, using the guise of his mom being killed by a rival gang and the need for revenge as a means to coerce Chang Shi into becoming a deadly assassin. But, he, in the end, yes, he does first assassination mission, but I mean, it's to kill the guy who killed his mom, so can't really be too mad at him. But after that, he decides to just run away. And then when you get to China, in his sister's fight club, when they talk after she beats him in another really cool fight scene that looks awesome, he actually just kind of left her there, which is kind of fucked up. And I don't blame her for being pissed off about. Because that was kind of a shitty thing to do. But after that, Chang Shi's dad's forces get there, the real Mandarin, and he just, they start wrecking everything up. And there's another good fight scene on the side of a building. And as the final soldier on the ground, he's about to stab him. The rings grab him. His dad's there. And, he says that he's glad that he was right, saying the soldiers couldn't kill him if they tried. So they go to his compound, where his dad just says that their mom isn't actually dead. And she's actually been communicating with him. And she needs their help because her own people trapped her behind a gate in their society, and she's trapped there, and they need to save her. She wants to get out, which, I mean, they're her people, so I guess doesn't really make sense, but that's pointed out a little later on. But he says that they're gonna go because it turns out Chang Shi and his sister each have their own little pennant, and they're the eyes of a little dragon statue. When they put him in, there's like a lot of water some Avatar shit that just goes out, creates a little map, shows him a route to get to Talo, the society where his mom's from. And their plan is to go in because there's a secret passage that only opens every once in a while. That's directly through an enchanted forest. That's also a maze that kind of gets rid of anyone who's trying to get to Talo. And so Chang Shi is not okay with this once he finds out that his dad kind of just plans to destroy the whole village. If they won't let his mom out, even though it kind of makes no sense that his mom would be trapped with her own people in general. But anyway, that's later on in the movie. So him and his sister are sent to the dungeon, and after that, we see Ben Kingsley's character, aka Trevor Slattery, aka the fake Mandarin. And, Disney now has another Porg that they can sell as a stuffed animal in Morris. And there's a really good joke about Ben Kingsley thinking he's actually gone crazy because he hasn't seen anyone else, and he thinks Morris is fake, but he's relieved when Chang Shi and his sister can see him too. And, you get a mention of what happened in Return of the King, the Marvel one-shot, and how his dad was going to kill him, but then, he just made him his jester because he's an actor. And so Morris is actually from Talo. He's like a bird stuffed animal thing with no face. So they escape, and, every Marvel movie has a car chase. So they have their car chase, and they eventually get to the forest. They get through the forest after, they kind of cut it really close. They get to Talo. There's some really cool creatures. They got a fox with a bunch of tails, some horses that look like the hippogriff from Harry Potter. And in the end, they get there, and then they see the people, and they tell him that Chang Shi's dad is coming. So they start training, and turns out their mom actually is dead. Surprise, surprise. And we get some exposition as to the lore of the Talo people, and we get some explanation of what's really going on, which is the Dark Soul Eaters and the Great Evil, as they say. It's like a giant beast, giant evil beast that their ancestors trapped a while ago with the Great Protector, who was a dragon. And that's what's really been calling out to him because he wants to get out, and only the 10 rings have the power to get him out. So his dad's being misled here and manipulated. And Chang Shi starts training with his aunt, who has the same powers as his mom, and he wants to know because his mom was the only person who ever beat his dad. So we get a scene where she tells him, you need to let go, you need to access your true power, one of those scenes. And we get some cool choreography. Awkwafina's training to be an archer, and his sister, who was not allowed to train with Chang Shi because she was a woman, or girl at the time. She tells Awkwafina earlier that she just watched him and trained herself how to do the same things they were doing, but better. And she gets her own little tool. And it turns out they use dragon scales, which is a gift from the Great Protector, to create pretty much indestructible tools, it looks like. And they're just getting ready for his dad's invasion. So then in the third act, we get a big meetup of Chang Shi and his dad. And his dad has his army, and he says, you're really going to help the people that are keeping your mother captive. And then his aunt says, that's not really my sister, that's dark magic and the dark evil villain that's manipulating you, and because he wants to get out. Then he says, I know the voice of my own wife. And, Chang Shi and his sister, they're kind of through with their dad's bullshit. And they they're ready to fight. So they charge, they start fighting. Chang Shi takes out a couple guys, his sister takes out a couple guys. And then their aunt takes out some people. He then starts to fight Chang Shi's dad for a little bit. And then eventually, while everyone's distracted, his dad goes to the door, but Chang Shi meets up with him, and they have a fight, a quick one. And turns out that his dad, his dad's evil. So, he's got evil into. He's letting his love for Chang Shi's mom drive him to do some pretty evil stuff, but even though it's not actually his mom, but he thinks it's his mom. So he kind of just kicks his son's ass real quick, because he hasn't had, the scene where he accesses his full potential, his full power, and he goes Super Saiyan, like in Captain Marvel where she takes off the chip. But anyway, so he just buries him under a lake, and then goes to the door, punches it, and he kind of loosens it up where the soul eaters get out, and they start stealing some souls, and eventually both sides have to work together because they can't because only the Ta Lo's weapons work against the soul eaters made from dragon scales. So then there's another flashback where his mom is telling him that pretty much what his aunt was telling him, like, you are both, your father and I, you have both the good and the bad, but you have like the ultimate power from our ancestors and stuff. And so then you get the introduction of the Great Protector. He comes out from the bottom of the lake. Chang Shi gets some air in him somehow, and he gets to ride the Great Protector. They bat off some soul eaters. They kill some really quick, but then he meets his dad again, and by this time he's almost fully mastered his power, and there's another fight, but this time Chang Shi is able to get half of the rings to on his side. So then there's a fight. So then when they fight again, it's kind of more equal, and they're fighting with the rings. And eventually, when his dad thinks he's killed him, turns out Chang Shi has harnessed the power of the 10 rings. And then you get this scene where you think he's going to charge him up, then kill his dad. But, he's not a villain, so he doesn't. But instead, the big soul-sucking monster gets out of the gate, steals his dad's soul, and then Chang Shi uses the 10 ring, and he goes toward... No, actually, that's not till the very end. What am I talking about? Anyway, it goes toward the village. It needs souls for nourishment, and Chang Shi is riding Great Protector Dragon, and there's a big fight with the two beasts, kind of like a Godzilla versus Kong thing, even though I didn't see that movie. But, same concept. Two big CGI monsters are fighting each other for a few minutes. And turns out this villain might actually win, but in classic Marvel fashion, it works, but, it is a kind of a formula. It's about to steal the Great Protector's soul, become unstoppable. But then Chang Shi unlocks his ultimate power, is the mastery of the 10 rings, and he starts doing the kung fu that his mom and aunt were teaching him in the air as he's coming down. And the rings are like lighting up in the beast, and they're creating like a big fireball, and he's doing the moves, and eventually the beast is defeated when Chang Shi just they explode. They cause the evil beast to explode, and they explain this to their friends who were kind of making fun of him earlier on, and do you blame them? But then again, After all the shit that's going on in the Marvel universe, how do they not believe them? I mean, they addressed earlier in the movie that they're in a time where just half the population can just disappear and then reappear. So is them fighting two giant creatures really that unbelievable in this universe? But whatever, they don't believe them. But then Wang, who was the originally fighting another kind of abomination-like, but abomination in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That was the first fight when they got to his sister's fight club. Wang shows up again, says, Chang Shi, we need your help. Him and Aquafina go through the portal, and the movie's over. Of course, that is, until the post-credit scenes, where they find out that the 10 rings are an ancient power that predates anything Wang and I forget what they're called. I need to watch Doctor Strange again. Captain Marvel's there. Bruce Banner is there. He's not Bruce Banner Hulk anymore. He's just Bruce Banner with the sling because, his arm's permanently damaged from snapping Thanos' gauntlet. And turns out that it's calling to something. I don't know what yet. Maybe the Eternals. I mean, I saw the trailer in the theater, but I'm not going to watch anything else. I want to go in as blind as possible. But, pretty good cast. Pretty star-studded cast. And then, you got the regular credits. And in that post-credit scene, kind of disappointing to see because you have Chang Shi's sister. Chang Shi thinks that, she's destroying her father's empire, but why would you think that in a Marvel movie? No, we need to set up sequels. So, which I don't mind. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a fun time, good action. I liked it. And yeah, turns out, no, she's just replaced their dad as the leader of the 10 Rings. So, yeah. That's the final shot. Just zooming out on her version of the compound, which is kind of the same thing, except they just have some masks and, they're training women. So, kind of sets up some sequels. And but overall, I'm really excited for what they're going to do with Chang Shi in the future of the MCU. I'm excited to see what role he plays with the Avengers. I'm excited to see eventually him fight his sister because, that's the natural sequel, right? Like, oh no! Oh, I thought you were gonna tear apart Dad's empire. Why the fuck would I want to tear apart Dad's empire? I said earlier in the film, my dad wouldn't let me be part of his empire, so I'm gonna build my own. So, brother-sister conflict that could be in the sequel. But overall, I really enjoyed Chang Shi. It was really fun, Glad I saw it. Didn't feel like a waste of money. But, if you haven't seen it, go see it. You'll enjoy yourself. And, fight scenes, top notch, But didn't they have to be? Go see it, though. That's all. Goodbye.